Hello, this is Zindy from the Golden Land located at angelfire.com/game/link40. I'm here to talk to you today about a common debate online that has been going on since the year of 2000. And it's been going on since the year 2000 because that is, well, when Majora's Mask came out. It is the debate versus Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. Now, before I go about doing this, let me tell you that I love absolutely both games. And of course, you're probably going to flame me about this or, send me random emails of hatred, but I actually do like Majora's Mask more than Ocarina of Time. And for a couple of reasons. Let me get through some of the stuff here. Basically, Ocarina of Time was the first game that Nintendo came out with that was 3D. It got great reviews, 10s all over the board, mostly because of the fact that it was just groundbreaking entirely. I personally do not think that it is very fair to claim it as the best Zelda game just because of the 3D. But nonetheless, it was still a very, very good game. Nintendo did a really good job on making dungeons, having the child and the adult story, and just things like that. I mean, there were so many good pieces of hearts. The item inventory was awesome. There was 4 sub-screens. I mean, it was so good. The dungeon quality was amazing. Some of the puzzles, the twisted corridor in the forest temple was awesome. The lens of truth that allowed you to see invisible stuff, I thought was really cool too. It was creepy because of the shadow temple, but was a really cool idea. Just some of the stuff they thought up, new tunics, new iron boots. I mean, it was a groundbreaking game. It really was. Not to mention the storyline was very groundbreaking too. To explain the Triforce. So the dungeon quality I thought was very, very well done. I thought overall Ocarina of Time was very, very well done. On to Majora's Mask. Majora's Mask is very, very hard to convince people to enjoy. Mostly because of the fact that it's got a 3-day cycle. Now that's its downside, the 3-day cycle. Oh, and I forgot to mention, another downside of Ocarina of Time that I personally don't like is the lack of monsters and the lack of how it feels. If you play Wind Waker, if you play A Link to the Past, there are multiple times where you fight against multiple different enemies. Like maybe 3 or 4, 5+ monsters. A Link to the Past is because you have the overhead view, but Wind Waker is because you can control the camera angle. Ocarina of Time was the first game in 3D, so they didn't know how to control camera angle at the moment. So they gave you only about 2 monsters at a time, unless if they were weaker creatures. And I didn't really like that too much. The challenge in the actual monsters, fighting them, was fun. And, like the Iron Knuckles and Stalfos were very well designed, but once again, you never fought more than 2. And I didn't like that very much. The only time you fought more than 2 creatures was if they were weaker creatures, like Keats, that only dealt a 1/4 of life, or Stell Children at night. The world also, to me, felt kind of desolate, in a way. It was rich, it was vibrant in color, but it was desolate in terms of NPCs. There was lack of people and lack of anything out in Hyrule Field at all, really, generally. And I didn't really like that at all. But anyway, on to Majora's Mask. Majora's Mask is actually a faster game, which is what I like. When you hit the sub-screen, when you hit pause, the sub-screen loads up so much faster. It's a small thing, but it is nonetheless a much better, it is nicer, it's a better convenience. That's what I liked about Majora's Mask. I actually really loved Majora's Mask in the terms of character development. Majora's Mask was the first game that I played, at least, if not maybe the first game in general, that actually had in-depth character development where a mailman was mailing his mail every day no matter what. Now granted, yes, you had to go back to day 1 and repeat things, but nonetheless, these characters were doing and going about their daily life as they were supposed to in this game. And I love that. There was so much character development. Every single mask you got in that game involved around a specific story on a character. And you're listening to a guy that really doesn't like side quests that much. I'll do them just for the sake of doing them. But when Majora's Mask did them that well, I was just enthralled entirely. I wanted to do them, and I did. I got them all done in Majora's Mask, and that game was so rewarding at the end when you got to see all the different ultimate endings during the credits because you got all the masks. That was really, really cool. The game overall was challenging too. The dungeon design was fantastic. The upside down dungeon for the final dungeon was cool. There was way more monster designs. There were the ones from Ocarina of Time, but there was way more monster types that dealt more types of damage. You still had the problem of only fighting against 2 creatures at a time, really, but you still dealt with more monster types. And of course, the world was alive, because you had NPCs outside, you had them in random areas. Now, the worlds in Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time were generally the same size, but in Ocarina of Time, since you were adult and child Link, you already explored everything, and you did it twice. In Majora's Mask, the world was the same size, but things were spread out more, so that you could not explore everything until certain points in the game, which is another thing I enjoyed about Majora's Mask. The downsides to Majora's Mask, the time frame. Now, like I said before, I love Majora's Mask, and I actually enjoyed the time frame because it gave you a general time frame to get things done. But a lot of reason why people don't like the time frame is because they don't know you can slow down time. If you play the Song of Time backwards, you can slow time down, giving you significant more amount of time to get things done. You actually legitimately can beat the game in 6 in-game days, because the first 3 days is meant towards your Ocarina, and the next 3 you can legitimately beat all the dungeons and beat the game with the next 3, because that is how much extra time you have. I also loved the nostalgia aspect though of Majora's Mask, going back to its pros. Nostalgia aspect. I mean, you had the main Zelda song as the theme, is the field music, which is awesome. And then a small thing for me that I also enjoyed was they brought back the spiraling staircases that were in A Link to the Past. When you went up to the next story, you went up a spiraling staircase, which was technically its loading time. That was cool. Now, in Ocarina of Time, they created different levels and dungeons, but they never gave it to you as a loading time. You always went up levels and dungeons through like climbing a wall or going up a staircase in the middle of a room or whatever the case may be. You know, so when they brought it back Majora's Mask, I was very, very pleased with that. But going back to its cons here, you know, like I said, you had the lack of dungeons. You know, you only had 4 dungeons, and it makes sense for the story because you have 4 giants that hold the moon, and if you have more dungeons, you have more giants. It just looks stupid. But I would just wish there was a way to incorporate more dungeons without incorporating more giants, and that would have been cool. But once again, that would have probably taken away a bunch of side quests just because of the fact that there would have been more heart containers then. So there's my thoughts with Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. I do personally love them both. I do love Majora's Mask more though, however. The music score I thought was overall better too. There's just more places and more things to explore, and thus creating a bigger score. But overall, I mean, I'm always going to own them. I'm a Zelda fan, that's the way it is. I love them both. So shoot me your comments, tell me what you think. You know, link_zelda40@hotmail.com. And, you know, I think that's about it. So let me take a look at my list, and, yep, that's all the points I wanted to hit. Alright, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.